March the 2nd marked my 1-year anniversary as a part-time reseller on eBay. It's come around pretty quick, right? So I thought I'd make a bit of a video just documenting my journey up to this point, why I started out in the first place, what I kind of initially wanted to do in the first place, what sort of things I wanted to resell, and how my sort of knowledge of various things has improved since then, and I've become more well-rounded in a plethora of things rather than just focusing on one specific thing, which I thought I could sustain when I first started, but more than that in a little bit. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Chris. I am a part-time reseller on eBay. As I just said, I've been doing this for about a year now. This video is going to be a bit of a recap of my first year, hopefully dish out some hints and tips, and what I tell myself if I was to go back in time and just try and explain to myself, my former self, why certain things probably aren't worth picking up in terms of making profit on eBay, and why certain things should be worth exploring. I'm going to talk about my sort of mentality when I started, my attitude towards profit making, and little nuances that have either evolved with time or I've just quashed because they've been rubbish. Think of it then as like a review of my first year, what went well, what didn't go so well, what I'm going to do going forward, and hopefully some hints and tips that you can pick up if you are thinking about reselling or you've just started. So without further ado, why did I start reselling? Well, for a number of reasons. Basically, going back to last year, my old Skoda, I've still got it, it's parked in the driveway, it cost me a bomb. An absolute fortune in its MOT. Over £1,000. Various things wrong with it, various electrical faults, various bits and bobs that needed sorting. The parts and the labour of the MOT came to over £1,000. And I just thought to myself, this is ridiculous, having to fork out this amount of money. I felt bad for my wife. I felt bad for the house. I felt that I'm spending way too much money from my full-time job's sort of salary on my car. I just thought, if I can find a way to alleviate some of the pressure of what my car is costing me, so I can spend more of my money that I earn from my job on the house, on my wife, on social occasions, that sort of thing, then that should hopefully, there's a win-win for everyone, surely. So that was the main thing that prompted me to start reselling. I've been to charity shops for years, been shopping there for myself, never really expecting to resell things. I also frequent car boots quite a bit. Again, looking for die-cast cars for myself, clothing, video games, anything that I'd want for my own collection or to wear, that sort of thing. I only had like a fair idea of what sort of things to look out for. So I thought, well, on my travels, I've seen plenty of things that I don't want for myself, but potentially other people could want. And surely if the price is right, I can sell these on eBay for a profit and then pay for A, what I'm buying for myself, and B, hopefully go towards car repairs or fuel. That's a good point. When I first started, my aim was to make back the fuel it costs my car every month or so. So, I mean, I don't know how much fuel was back then. Let's say it was £80 a tank. And that I might be filling up once a month. So I'm working from home. I'm only like sort of commuting to the office occasionally and car boots, whatever. So initially I only wanted to cover the cost of fuel. So it would have been, £80 a month, which is, back then it seemed like quite a large amount, to be honest, because, you got to start from somewhere. I really did not know how much I was going to be making. I didn't really have much of an idea of what to look out for and what to pay. So, but look, you've got to start somewhere. I started from what I knew. And what I knew when I first started reselling was I knew about video games because I've been amassing them for myself over the years. I knew about die-cast cars of all scales because, again, I've been amassing them for many, many years. So I knew sort of what sort of things to look out for. And I also knew about certain clothing, but a lot of the clothing I knew back then I wouldn't buy now. Stuff like Abercrombie & Fitch, Hollister, Superdry, and there's certain more skate surf brands like Quicksilver, Hurley, Billabong, that sort of thing. That's the sort of thing I would look out for. Of course, now I wouldn't touch most of those when it comes to reselling, certainly not modern stuff. And I remember going to my first car boot sale and thinking, I saw some football boots. I can't remember what they were. Maybe they were Adidas, I don't know. But I remember asking how much they were, and I think the lady wanted a £5. And I said, okay. And at that moment, I just thought to myself, hang on, how do I know that these football boots are going to be worth picking up to resell. I knew about eBay sold listings, but I didn't think to check at the time. I knew about shoe sizes and how larger sizes would probably do better, but I didn't know about the individual models and how well they'd sell. So my initial approach was sort of buy something and then just sort of hope that it did okay. And that methodology kind of worked for a while, but I ended up making not much profit per item. So let's say the football boots, I pay a £5 for them, I might sell them for £12. Well, minus fees, minus tax, I'm only going to be making a couple of quid. So I soon realised that, well, I didn't soon realise, it took me a while. It took me a while to realise that that's probably not the best way of making as much profit as possible, because why spend a fiver and make 12 when you could potentially spend a fiver and make 50, say? But that's it. That wasn't a part of my mindset back then. So again, I've had to sort of evolve into it, develop what I knew, and just learn what sells, what doesn't. And to be fair, that has formed the vast majority of my sort of spending habits. I've learned things from watching YouTube videos and just doing general research on eBay and into various brands. But for the most part, in order to find out how well something sells, you kind of have to experiment yourself, buy it, and then see how well it does. Obviously, you know, ensuring you buy the said item for as low as you can means you're not investing too much in said item, so you can experiment, and if it's a complete flop, then it's not too much of a loss. You're paying to learn. And that's sort of what I did for the first few months, and I'd be picking up just everything that I think could make profit. So clothing, footwear, video games, if I wasn't beaten to them first, board games, cars if I could, and then just like I'm just looking around thinking, what else will I buy? Most of the stuff has now gone, or I've donated it, because a lot of the stuff I was picking up was just trash. Well, not trash, but just wasn't really worth selling on. But I had to do that in order to know what things don't sell, so I'm not making the same mistake again in the future, if that makes sense. So there was a lot of that. And I say, initially, I probably wasn't making very much money at all. I remember buying things for sort of £3 and selling them for £8, thinking, oh, good, I made a £5 profit. But I haven't, because you take away tax, you take away eBay fees. This was long before I did promoted listings, so they weren't a factor. But 3 into 8, I mean, you're making £1 or £2 tops, assuming postage is on top of that. So, yeah, I learned reasonably quickly-ish that wasn't a great way of doing things. So, over time, watching people pick up things and, you know, 2 into 40, 3 into 60, and thinking, crikey, how are these people finding these amazing items and flipping them for so much when I'm spending £3 and making 8? They're spending £3 and making 50, let's say. So I've really refined my sort of spending habits down to stuff that makes good profit on the whole, isn't too big and bulky. I haven't got a huge amount of room in here. I don't know how well it's going to pick it up, but it is a pitch roof, and there is limited space to store stuff. So that's why I've sort of streamlined to mainly clothing and footwear. It's readily available. There's so much out there to find. Like all these like little niche luxury and premium brands that may slip through the proverbial net in charity shops that you can swoop in, swipe, and then make a good profit on. That's what I most love about reselling. So yeah, to recap, I've really streamlined my spending habits. Clothing and footwear make it the majority. I'd love to be able to do toys more. Watching people like Ian Master Pieces pick up loads of toys, thinking, oh, this would be really good. You know, finding Transformers and stuff. But honestly, if I was to film the typical toy section in a charity shop, car boots are a bit different. And we'll get to those as the weather gets nicer. But charity shops on the whole, the toy section is just a little bit meh. Not necessarily bad, but just a bit meh. There's plushies, but there's no like jelly cats or unusual Build-A-Bears or Disney Store exclusives. It's just sort of generic plushies. There might be some ball games. There might be some big, bulky plastic things. But stuff that's really worth reselling, personally, it's so few and far between. I can't make videos interesting enough just documenting toys, because I'm just not picking that many up. In my own
business model, which is I typically want to get 5 times my initial investment back on an item. 4 absolute minimum, 5 preferred. Any more than that, fantastic. So I won't be picking up a £3 plushie if I can only get £12 plus postage for it. What's the point? Because it might take a while to sell. It takes a fair bit of room. I know you can squidge it down, but you want to like retain its shape. And if I'm only making a couple of quid at the end of it, then meh. Why spend £3 on a £12 plushie when I can spend £3 on, let's say, some jeans and then make 40? You know where I'm coming from? I know there are plushies worth 40, but I would say again, they're so few and far between. It just doesn't really make sense to me. So yeah, car boot sales last year formed the majority of my purchases. I was getting to charity shops, but I say I wasn't really finding a huge amount, not as I am now. And I say my business mindset, I guess you could say, was so narrow. There was probably like some absolute gems lurking in the charity shops. I just wasn't seeing them because I wasn't looking for them. So that has certainly changed over the last few months. Certainly my initial sort of focus, I guess, was so limited. It was football boots. Football boots form the main part of my sort of focus, really. I've got to find football boots. I just focused on football boots. So it has to be football boots. I just thought, oh, if I can just resell football boots, that'd be amazing. Well, football boots aren't that popular, shall we say. Certainly large adult sizes. Kids ones, everywhere. But good quality adult size. And I'm talking like 9+ size, like late man size. Football boots are pretty few and far between. So that phase quickly ended. I'm trying to think back to some of the earliest car boots where I was trying to look to resell, and just some of the absolute rubbish I was picking up. I don't know. The take home here is it's all a learning curve. You will look back and think, why on earth did I pick that up? But until you do buy that and then realise down the line that it was like a pointless exercise, you won't know not to do it again, if that makes sense. So everything you do from day one to however long you want to be in this game for, you'll learn something. Like even the biggest mistakes you make, you'll learn so much, and then you shouldn't do it again, hopefully. I bought things, electronic things that don't work, paid up for them, and they've let me down. I've bought clothing with, I still do, buy clothing with blooming holes in them, and I just don't check things over. But you do make these mistakes, but you do carry it through with you. You're not going to just, you're not going to repeat the same mistakes over and over if you can help it. These things do stick in your mind. Charity shops have certainly come on good. Certainly the last couple of months. Certainly since late last year. I have the luxury pickers to thank for that. And if you haven't seen them, please go and check them out. You will learn so much. And they are both lovely. So yeah, I'm going to direct you over there after you finish watching this. You will learn a ton. But yeah, just finding the brands that you just wouldn't normally consider buying, I guess. Like brands that you might just flick past on a rail, but actually that's where the really good profit is. And I say, looking for quality. I remember my friend on Instagram, and also on a channel you should check out, Lee Cola Flipper. He once said you should be confident looking for quality. When he first said that, I thought, what does he mean, looking for quality? Or knowing what quality feels like, I think it might have been. How do I know what quality feels like? When I started, I was aware of what cotton is and cashmere and silk and whatever, but now I could go into a shop, feel a knit, and instantly know if it was a certain material. Here's what I found literally earlier today. This is if you can reach out and touch it, this is such a soft material. And as soon as I touched it, I thought, that's cashmere. And it is. This isn't a pickup video, this is just a demonstration. So it's cashmere. You can just tell. I can't probably describe to you what it feels like, but it's a super soft. It just feels like quality. I know you can get some really soft acrylics, but there's a big difference between cashmere and acrylic. And if you can go into a shop and feel a garment and know if it's merino wool or cashmere or silk or whatever without looking at the label, you're going to be in fantastic stead. That's something that I did struggle with initially, is just knowing to look for quality. And to be fair, another thing that I wasn't really aware of are trends. So I remember when I first started out, something that I was really keen on picking up were Mayer trousers, menswear trousers. they sold pretty well when I first started about a year ago. You might be able to pick them up for £4, sell them for 20 pretty regularly, pretty fast. Nowadays, nope, I haven't picked up a pair of Mayors in ages. Not because I haven't wanted to, or because I haven't found them, or I haven't found them cheap enough, because they aren't selling. And you've got to keep on top of things. Not just clothing or footwear, you know, I'm sure it applies to so many things, that trends come and go, things become popular and don't. Actually, here's a great example. That's a Bopper Extreme 2. This one isn't in the best condition. When I first started reselling, these were selling like hotcakes, not just at Christmas time. You could probably get, I don't know, 17 to 20 on a good condition one, which this one isn't. You might pay a couple of quid at the car boot sale or the charity shop. These days, I'm not saying you can barely give them away, but they're just falling out of favour, which is a shame because they're a great game. But there just isn't the demand for them. I guess because eBay's been swamped by them or something, and just the supply exceeds the demand. I don't know, but whatever the reason is, they're just not selling as well anymore. And that's something I wasn't really aware of back then either. So I was just buying things, you know, in copious quantities, thinking, "Oh yes, this is a great investment." Ah. And I say I can see 4 Bopper Extreme 1 and 2s just in that box that I haven't got around to listing because they either need help or I mean, yeah, it's like a tenner, but then I've got to package it up and bubble wrap it and put it in a box, and it's just like, oh, I can't be bothered. So that's just sat there. So yeah, trends come and go as well. I really wasn't aware of this. I really wasn't aware. I've never been very fashionable, as you can tell. So yeah, seasons, trends just pass me by. I've learned more this last year in learning about reselling than I think I've learned throughout my whole existence. All 30 years of it, probably, by the time this video is released, of my life. I've just absorbed information. There's so much to learn, and it's been absolutely fantastic. I just love learning about just new things and being able to apply what I learned from watching YouTube and researching and applying it sort of in the field, out in the trenches, as people say, and seeing results. It's fantastic. And you know, and learning about really sort of rare things and really sort of premium pieces. And when you go out and you can find these things for a good price, there's no better feeling. There's no better feeling. You think, oh, I'm so glad I did that research, because without it, I wouldn't have found this. You know, 8 months ago, oh, not even that, 4 months ago, I might have passed whatever that thing is by, but you're always learning. So you're going to pass by fewer items because you're aware of it. So where am I going with this? Well, I mean, going forward, business is going to be continuing as per usual. We'll be picking up predominantly clothing and footwear because that's just where I'm comfortable with. And I found I've been making really good sales with clothing and footwear. So why change a winning formula? Obviously, I'll be branching out into other things as well. There will be the occasional toy pickups. There will be, I don't know, the occasional video games, media, maybe like small electronics. But for the most part, clothing and footwear has done me an absolute stellar service on my eBay shop. It's just, yeah, some absolutely fantastic sales that I've been able to achieve through the research and just having an interest in it, I guess you could say. So, will there be board games going forward? No. Will there be Lego? Probably not. Like, it doesn't really faze me, Lego. There will be footwear, there will be clothing, there'll be a lot more women's clothing, I hope, as I sort of diversify into that vast segment. But yeah, just sort of more of the same, but hopefully more of a variety, if that makes some sort of sense. I'm just enjoying it. I'm enjoying the ride. Say, I know eBay can be a pickle. Some days you'll sell nothing, other days you'll sell loads, and there's no real predictability with that. So it can be frustrating at times, and I've learned that if you do have a quiet period, it's not the end of the world. You just got to persevere, weather yourself through the storm, keep listing, keep doing whatever, and yeah, and the results will show. But say I wouldn't change this year for anything. It's been an absolutely fantastic learning curve, and I hope it continues long into the future, because by doing this, by doing the reselling, my finances, given the situation we're currently in, the cost of living is spiraling, food prices, energy bills, the lot. Reselling is really helping out, just easing the stress on our finances, and not just my personal ones, not just with the car, but also with my wife's, and yeah, just making life that little bit easier. So I would definitely be continuing as much as I can. Do I regret not starting earlier? I don't know, a little bit. I do remember going around charity shops previously, say 10 years ago, and the prices were really cheap. I can't remember seeing anything that was like, ooh, but I do remember when, you know, British Heart Foundation was relatively inexpensive. This is in Exeter as well, so, you know, in a city. I remember buying PS1 games from there for like a quid each, or 99p, whatever it was. Not really looking at the clothing, but I remember the clothing being a lot cheaper, buying things for my uni days when I was a skint student. So I'm a little bit I've got a little bit of regret that I didn't start earlier, but I wasn't really in a position to start earlier. Certainly previous living accommodation was restricted, shall we say. So I wouldn't change anything for the world. I'm really happy where I am currently. Long may it continue. Yeah, I guess that's it. Take home points. Biggest profits possible. Not buying something for a fiver, flip it for 12. Setting limits as to how much profit I want to make per item. You could probably make profit on everything if you wait long enough. But A, how much profit do you want to make per item, taking into account fees and tax? And B, how long do you really want to sit with that item waiting for it to sell? You know, I've only got finite space. I don't want to be holding on to things for months and months on end, particularly if the profit margins aren't really there anyway. So I guess it's just refining what you buy, enjoying what you're buying, and just enjoying the whole process, because it is fun. It is a fun process. It's good to go out to a random charity shop, apply your knowledge, find things to pay for the meal you're about to have, or pay for the petrol to get you there, or pay for whatever. It's just great. It's just it's just a really rewarding experience. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care. If you do want to subscribe, like and comment, please do. I'm not going to force you to, but it really helps the channel out, so please do if you'd like to. And until next time, take care, and I will see you very soon. Goodbye.